This is Musical Talk.
Musical Talk.
The UK's independent musical theatre podcast.
Musical Talk, the UK independent musical theatre podcast.
Well, hello, welcome to this week's episode of Musical Talk. I hope you're all well, you're all warm. Happy Thanksgiving, happy Hanukkah, and all that kind of stuff to everyone. Robert Gordon, hello, welcome back to Musical Talk.
Hello, Nick.
And happy Hanukkah. Is it Hanukkah time now?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, we're recording this a couple of days before Thanksgiving. Robert and I have a slew of shows to discuss, don't we? Because we've all seen things and we want to talk about them, really.
Well, I get a chance, Nick, which is rather good. For the first time, I get a chance to interview you. You've interviewed me a number of times on this program, but it's good on the podcast. But it's good for me to interview you for a change.
Yes, because I've seen some things that you haven't seen, and
Yes.
we've both seen some things that we want to talk about. But I think I'm going to start by discussing The Commitments, which is a thing you know nothing about, isn't it? You've obviously seen advertised and things.
I have to say, I haven't seen the film. I've seen the advertisements, and it looked interesting. The marketing material looked interesting, but actually, my first question to you is it a kind of, does it come across as a kind of jukebox musical? Because I understand the songs were already in existence, that they haven't been.
Yeah. The film is a 1980s film about a sort of council estate in Ireland, set in the modern day in Ireland. So when the film was made, it was the modern day, but now it's old-fashioned. Well, it's the 80s, essentially, the 1980s. And it's about a group of kids who get together and essentially form a soul band called The Commitments. They find success, and then they lose success, and then they find success again, and then, they kind of do very well. So the film had the guy who played the singer in the film then went on to become a very successful soul singer through the success of the film. So it's kind of a weird, for him it was art imitating life, imitating art, essentially. And then they obviously had the sensible idea sort of sensible idea, in my opinion, of doing it as a musical. Or not, as the case will be. This is a play with songs, much like that Beatles. Did you see the Beatles thing? Not Let It Be, the other one about the early Beatles that uses music not to move the story forward, but just to demonstrate that we are singing a song now, and let's move on. Essentially, does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, so
Buddy Holly or something.
Yes,
the Buddy Holly story, or Great Balls of Fire, the Jerry Lee Lewis one.
So it's what I used to call a biopic.
Yeah, it's a biocool, which could be the technical term.
Are these original songs in the stage musical?
No, they're all covers of soul songs from the 1960s.
Sounds like a show I would like, because I like those.
You can't guarantee that the songs are brilliant. And I went with my dad, who isn't the biggest fan of soul music, and he said it did kind of sound all a bit the same come the end of it. And this leads me to my point, what I would have loved for them to do, and I don't think this has been done with a kind of jukebox bio-cool show thing, is have original songs in it for the musical moments, maybe Irish folky kind of a sound, or Irish rocky folk, and then have the pop songs in it. Mm-hmm. So you marry the two worlds, essentially, because there are extreme moments of dialogue, of drama within dialogue that could very happily be sung, and then you could have two musical worlds coming together, much like Billy Elliot does with the kind of folk world and the theatrical world of Billy Elliot.
What interests me about what you say is, I'm thinking you're reminding me, when you're talking about 70s soul, of what I thought was the brilliant pastiche of 70s soul by Alan Menken in Sister Act. And I wonder, would that have worked? Would that approach have worked better for this show?
Well, not disco, I think, because it was more, this is more 60s stuff. But I think you need the original songs in it because that's what they were performing, in the film. So it works very well. But I would have liked to have seen new songs written outside of the pop songs, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So not doing a pastiche score, but doing a kind of other world score, essentially.
So in a way, it would become more or less a real book musical, rather than
with
a clever jukebox musical.
So like a real book musical meets a jukebox musical, a juke book musical, I guess you could call it.
Oh, that is an interesting idea.
And it's playing at the Palace Theatre, which is always a lovely theatre to go to. I always forget how big it is, because when Les Mis was there, it kind of made it seem quite small, didn't it? But they've the height of the Pross Arch is always very, very tall. And the design of this show is really rather wonderful. The lighting was beautiful, and these kind of big rock lighting rigs would lower down for each scene that was needed. And there was literally a council block built on this stage on the left side, the back, and the right side. And things would, a bit like Billy Elliot in a way, things would slide on and slide off. And what I really liked was the kind of concept of groupies doing all the scene changes. So as opposed to the sets being on automated panels, these, groupies would come on with chewing gum and headphones and kind of lean on the scenery and push it forward into place and wait there, looking at their clock and stuff, and waiting until the scene was over, till they moved it off. And at one point they needed rain on stage, so one of the groupies came on with a watering can and just poured it over the actors' heads. And there's some wonderful moments like that. The audience absolutely loved it. It's one of those shows where you're literally dragged to your feet at the end and told to get up and fucking dance. And that's another thing, the language in this show, don't bring your kids, listeners, if you have kids. If you don't have kids, don't bring kids anyway, because that's a bit weird. Very, very, very blue. The C word appears. The F word is in the show in multitudes. And so it's definitely one for the grown-ups. Really very enjoyable. I did find the accents a bit hard, because it's set in Ireland. I did find the accents a bit hard to pick up for the first, about 2.5 hours, really. Come the end, I was used to it, but then the show finished, so that was a bit sad.
Do you think it's a show that will run a long time in London?
Who knows? What's a long time now?
Well,
Is London just a step on a tour?
Will it run for more than a year?
I'd like to see it run for more than a year, because these shows are always quite popular. And you mentioned Let It Be earlier, and that sort of shocked a lot of people with how long it's played for. But who knows? Get back to me in a year, and I'll offer my answer. Did it run less than a year?
Well, the format of the show and the design and the production sounds very interesting. I've heard, and I'm not sure if you would agree with this, but I've heard that some of the cast, especially the lead performer, are extraordinarily good.
I'm not good at Irish, so it's either Killen or Killian.
Killian, probably.
Killen Donnelly is brilliant. They're all very, very good. They all play instruments. They all play multiple instruments, and they all not much dancing, but they have to. There's a lot of singing, lots of hard singing. I kind of said it in a tweet months and months ago, and this is a very clever pun, and I hope you'll laugh, listener. The Commitments is the soul opposite of Once. Soul. Soul. That's the Commitments. If you're a fan of the soul music, it's not really an area of music that's been explored much in musical theatre, apart from the Blues Brothers review show, which I saw a couple of years ago, when it was at the theatre that is now called the Duchess, which used to be called something else, didn't it? It used to have a different name.
I don't remember, but perhaps.
Yeah, it did. And
that was a very small theatre.
Yeah,
it is a very small theatre.
Still is a very small theatre. Much better for plays. But certainly go and see The Commitments. The website is thecommitmentslondon.com. Have I teased you about this show, Robert?
Yes, you've convinced me. I was thinking I wouldn't go and see it, but now, because you've explained to me that it actually uses soul music from the 70s...
60s.
From the 60s, it interests me, because it's the kind of music that I love, actually.
And it's very quick. I really suggest going to see it.
From what you say, it also seems that they've justified the jukebox in a very, very cleverly, because in a sense it is the music that band is playing.
Yeah, and it doesn't do what jukebox musicals try to do, which is try to tell a story by using an existing song. They just use the song, so it's a play with songs. It just so happens that it's musical because it's big, and they're labelling it as a musical, which I don't really think they should do. But I think, like, they labelled, for example, Once as a musical, it got people to see it, which I don't think if you labelled it as a play, people would go and see it, would they?
No, I think that's right. It's almost like a new subgenre that seems to be emerging, so that you can have, as in Once and in The Commitments, from what you've said, you can have people actually singing and playing instruments live on stage, because they're either in a concert situation within the drama, or they're in a pub and they're playing music.
I don't think it's a new genre or new subgenre. I think it's been around since the Buddy Holly story, and I'm sure you, as a musical theatre expert, can probably go back further than that. but it's not a biopic, so it's not telling a true story. What it is, yeah, see the film, because it's a really, I mean, I will also say it's incredibly funny as well. There's some brilliant lines, and there were lots of Irish people in when I went to see it, and my dad went to university in Ireland at Trinity College in Dublin, so I took him, and he was getting lots of in-jokes about the Irish and stuff like that. So, but if you like that sweet soul music, go and see the show, because it really is, the music department is brilliant, and it's a great sound. And
would you say that it's that it adds anything to the film, or is it just a way of putting the film on stage?
All I remember seeing the film, I must have been 16 at the time or something, and I said to myself, this needs to be a musical. So the reason I'm annoyed is that it's not a book musical. It's a play with just the songs slapped on stage. So I would like to see it done fully as a book musical using the soul songs, but it's not. So I'll never get the chance to do that, but never mind. Let's move on to another new musical that you and I have both seen, Robert. We talked to Tim Rice about this musical a while ago, From Here to Eternity.
Yes, well, this is a show that I feel rather disappointed by the reaction of the critics, because I think it's a very intelligent book, some very good music, and some brilliant lyrics. I think they're among Tim Rice's best lyrics, and I think it's a shame. I think the problem is that the production isn't powerful enough, in a sense. The production, there are very few, what one used to call stopper moments. There are very few.
They try to do them
at times, and I think the choreography is very interesting by Javier de Frutos, but it's not. It doesn't take off at times in the way that it should, and I think it's.
We have to say, though, you saw a preview, Robert. So or have you seen it again?
I saw two previews. I saw a preview and then I saw it later, and so it had changed the second time. And I think what I saw the second time was closer to what happened on the opening night. But I think the performances were superb. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel that the central female lead, was quite as good as the others. I thought the acting was a bit thin in playing what I think of as the Deborah Carr part from the film. But I thought that the two men were very well cast and very good.
Yeah, go on.
I thought that the secondary leading role, the woman who is a prostitute, actually,
the brunette.
The brunette, yes. I thought she was very good,
mm-hmm.
but I think the rest of the cast is very good. There's the guy who plays what I think of as the Frank Sinatra part.
The small guy who comes on in the beginning with his ukulele.
The Italian American who got Sinatra got an Oscar for that supporting role. But this guy is very, very good, both in his acting and in his singing performance.
The problem I had was there were two lead guys, and I didn't know which one to root for, and I thought they were both kind of wimpy characters, really, because one, I'm not going to play the trumpet because it's something I enjoy. It doesn't make... Shut up and play the trumpet. I'm not going to go boxing because I hurt myself. Just box. And then there's the other guy who come, and I didn't know which one I was meant to be. There's Darius, and there's the boxer guy, and I didn't know which one to be rooting
for.
In
that sense, you can't really blame the adaptation. You have to blame the original novel,
story, yeah.
Because they are quite faithful to the novel.
Well, we have to mention this as well, that much like The Commitments, this is the big shock for, certainly when I was there, the two elderly ladies in front of us weren't expecting the language to be quite as blue as the sea.
It was in that respect quite realistic, and in a way I'm glad, although it wasn't the best scene in the piece, but I'm glad they actually reverted to the pre-censored version, which is now being published, of the novel, which is very explicit about the soldiers getting involved in with gay men in a gay club, because it's obviously what went on in those sort of wartime situations, and it's realistically handled and not sort of voyeuristic in the production. But I think at least the film was so censored, in a sense. You could see in the early 50s the way the film had to respond to very heavy censorship, and this isn't. And people were worried even that the book got censored because the novel got censored because people felt that it might seem the military in the 1950s, or give a bad view of the military. It was just an honest view of the military.
What I liked about the choreography was how military-based it was,
Mm-hmm.
and there was lots of marching formations and the amazing bouncing around in all the beds and stuff like that. I hated the set.
Mm-hmm.
I hated those. I mean, I know it's probably location correct, but I hated those Venetian blinds that came down and sort of went up and down. I thought the lampshades were the hanging lamps were quite nice. I like the fact that we are almost seeing it in a post-war theatre, which was quite nice, because the kind of arches inside the stage were all blown up. But I just didn't like much of the set at all, really.
I quite enjoyed the set, but I thought there wasn't enough spectacle.
Yeah.
Now, it sounds odd to say that, but when you've got a musical in a large theatre in the West End, and you don't, because it's a military setting, you don't have the chance for very much colour. I mean, you can't have variations in the costuming except for the prostitutes. And I thought they sort of overdid the prostitutes slightly, but they weren't.
Even the gay club could have been more colourful.
Yeah, and even the gay club could have been more colourful, and there could have been a spectacular number in the gay club, which might not have been totally true to the novel, but it would have developed the novel.
Would have been fabulous anyway.
Absolutely fabulous. But it would have developed the novel into a stage show, and I think that's partly to be laid at the door of the director, because I think the director isn't...
It's Tamara Harvey.
Tamara Harvey. I don't think she's experienced in the staging of musicals, and I think the show as a whole needed more flair in staging. Now, I think that would have related partly to the book and the development of the book, but partly also to deciding where is there going to be... I kept waiting in the first half hour for the knockout number. And if the first number, for example, had been a knockout, it was intelligent and it told the story and it was true to the story. But once you sort of felt you were never going to get it, and you never quite did. Although I felt that in the second half, not through staging, but through the beauty of some of the songs and the beautiful voices of Darius and the other man, excuse me for forgetting his name, who gave superb performances. I thought their sort of duet and then the quartet of lovers, which was written, I thought they were beautiful.
Apart from two songs, I thought the songs were better in Act 1, and I thought the story was better in Act 2. But my two favourite songs were in Act 2, which is the blues song, which is sung by the two chaps, and then the very finale, the 50... the Men of War, whatever it was called, where it was very moving. Another design issue I had was that if you're using the back wall as a projection, make it a flat wall. Don't have it be a very rugged, rough brick wall, because I couldn't work out much the projections, which is a shame.
I didn't think the beach scene worked very well, because I think it is very important and beautiful in the film. But I thought, okay, so we're projecting the sea, but I felt they were very much on a flat stage, and I didn't feel the intimacy.
You wanted the whole stage to fill with water, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I wanted the whole stage to be a bit more full of sand, and I also felt that you needed an intimacy between the two of them, especially in the contemporary theatre, which was lacking. And I think the actors were trapped on that set. And perhaps trapped by the production, but I think that needed to be more daring.
The music I did enjoy. I thought it was a bit too poppy at certain times and not really era specific enough as some of it was. I didn't think there was a through voice enough of the music, but the tunes were incredibly, clever and attractive, and the harmonies are wonderful. A big orchestra as well, which I always like in shows. I struggled with the sound for some of it. I couldn't quite hear a lot of Tim's lyrics, which is a shame, because they're always enjoyable. One rhyme I do remember really enjoying was rhyming Kansas with man's as good as anything, or something like that, which but it wasn't Tim Rice being witty, it was Tim Rice being a storyteller.
Yes, I think that's what's so good about these lyrics. When you look at Tim Rice, he's usually he's been famous. His reputation's been made for very witty lyrics that aren't always in character, but are written in a sort of musical comedy style of irony and
Tim Rice voice
and self-reflection in his own voice, authorial voice. But I think that in this show, he really wrote lean, spare lyrics that were only
Gritty
witty
lyrics.
in character. They were witty and they were in character.
Gritty and witty.
And they were gritty, they were witty.
They were pretty.
Gritty and witty
Not
and,
too shitty.
and wise. But I think that as you say, I did agree. I heard all the lyrics, perhaps because of where I was sitting, but I didn't feel that the voices of the singers were balanced well against the orchestra. I think the orchestra was drowning people out, so there was something wrong with the sound design. Perhaps that's been fixed.
Let's hope so, because that was the problem as well. Because I had good seats as well. So From Here to Eternity is playing at the Shaftesbury Theatre. Don't know for how long though, because it was half empty when I went on, or half full, depending what your outlook on life is. I went on a Friday night. Not a good sign. But anyway, please do go and see it. It's a new musical. It's that rare thing, and it'd be interesting to see come awards season what happens with that show.
It's certainly an intelligent evening.
Exactly. The complete opposite to that is Spamalot, which is having... Well, Monty Python have been in the news lately because they've just released... they're doing a big show at the O2, aren't they? Or the Wembley, somewhere.
O2.
The O2. And I believe the tickets for the show, they've since released more, but they sold out in 37 seconds, which is amazing.
Well, it does show you how popular they are still.
Yes, which is why we still have Spamalot playing in London, or we have a different version of Spamalot playing in London, which sort of not happened much with musicals, has it? I mean, no musicals have ever been, apart from Les Mis and all that kind of stuff, and Phantom as well, they've never really been picked up, reconceived, restaged, and reopened.
Certainly not within 10 years of the original production.
Yeah.
I think this is less than 10 years before the original production came to London.
So maybe they realised that the skill of the show is in the script and the performers, and if they do a kind of celebrity thing every once in a while, they can do a kind of very small production of it. The chorus is 4 people, 2 girls and 2 boys, and there's the lead guy, King Arthur, who is a multitude of celebrities. You know, they've had Warwick Davis do it, the famous, he's in Harry Potter and stuff like that. One time when I saw it, Joe Pasquale played King Arthur, and he was very good indeed. They're having Dick and Dom come in and do it from children's television. So they're kind of doing a Have I Got News For You style thing, where they can just have this character come on and the whole silliness happens around him, really.
Well, it sounds great fun, but I have to say that I wasn't a huge fan of the original. It might be that one of the problems was it was in a big theatre when it first came to London, and I think that meant that something which is a sort of series of quirky jokes and a lot of in-jokes about the theatre and about musicals was blown up, and so you were expecting something more like a really original musical, where I think this is not remarkable as a musical. It's funny as a burlesque. It's funny in the way that the original film was funny, but in a sense, I wondered why turn it into a musical. Now, I know that's a dissenting view because most people have absolutely loved it. But I thought this is a burlesque show. It's a parody and a pastiche, and there are some very funny songs, although not as funny in London as New York. I mean, the show won't run if you don't have any Jews, or whatever that is, exactly the line is. But of course, that's hilarious in New York, where half the audience is Jewish and all the producers are Jewish. All the producers are Jewish. But I think that it's obviously there is a huge potential Monty Python audience who love Monty Python, and I think that from what you say and from what I've read, what's really scored this time around is that it was in a smaller theatre.
Yeah, it's in the much more intimate Playhouse theatre on the Embankment. The Jewish song is gone.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's now been completely rewritten to "You won't succeed in the West End if you don't have a star."
Oh.
So it's now all about Susan Boyle, and it's now all about Jedward, and it's about Boris Johnson.
How
and
interesting!
Stuff. So they've really made, and that is a showstopper now.
Yes,
It's
yes.
the kind of what America had,
Yes.
but we have it for our obsession with talentless celebrities.
Yes.
I like it because it's done in such an amateurish way. It's like a village hall production of Spamalot. They don't even have. I mean, there's one scene in the Spamalot, the Broadway production, the multi-million-dollar Broadway extravaganza where one of the messengers from heaven flew down on a wire and said, you must find the Holy Grail or something like that. And there's the line, how is it you support without any visible wires or anything like that? Which is very funny. But now he just stands in a box that's the same colour as the backdrop.
Yes.
So you can see the box, and they still have the joke, how is it you float without any visible platform or anything like that? But it's a much cheaper gag. The show can run much longer.
The production itself sounds much wittier than the original.
It's a much smaller community-ish show, and you really feel as if you're part of it.
And after all, that's part of the fun of the Monty Python sketches.
It's like Footlights.
Yes, that's part of it, isn't it? Because they were review-like, the sketches.
Yeah.
They didn't require. They required, in a way, not to have big sets, to have tatty little sets, and because they're all so obviously artificial.
Well, the famous story about the coconuts in the Monty Python and the Holy Grail film is they couldn't afford horses, so they just got coconuts, and now it's the best gag
in the show.
And it has this whole long rant about the coconuts migrating and all that kind of stuff, but it is a community piece because the audience are mouthing along with these lines. And the minute the French knights appear, the audience just, they're laughing already. And the minute the big rabbit appears and you have the wonderful, c'est un lapin. What?
Well, you're making me want to see it, Nick.
Go and see it because it's just nice to be able to see it again because it's not running on Broadway anymore. It's still, it's still in the country where it belongs. In England, and it's a lot less show-offy, and a lot more the star of the show is the book because it's very funny and the songs are very, very funny as well.
And do you think it's a show that will tour a lot in this country?
It's already toured.
Has it?
This is the touring show that they've just put into the West End.
Right.
But don't go expecting the big sets that Broadway and London had. It's not that. This is what Monty Python would do, in the early 70s if the show were a show.
Yes. Well, that sounds just right.
It is. And, it still has always look on the bright side of life as a sing-along at the end and things like that. And it's just a lot less bombastic, if that makes sense. You and I both like bombastic shows.
Well, I like them when the bombast, as it were, is justified. But I think you're quite right. I often feel that the shows are forced into theatres that are too big for them. Mm-hmm. And when you lose that kind of intimacy and you lose the community sing-along, shout-out-loud feel... Music hall feel, then, especially with a British audience, you lose the audience. I felt the same thing exactly when I first saw La Cage aux Folles when it transferred to the Palladium from New York. It really didn't work, and it didn't last long at the Palladium. The theatre was far too big for the show. When I saw it at the Meunier, it was...
And then the Playhouse.
And then the Playhouse, it was absolutely delightful. Of course, it was a different production. It was a much better production. But it was the right... both those theatres were about the right size for that show.
Our very own Jonathan Cohen is doing a Christmas concert this year, as he does every year at the Royal Albert Hall, and he's just been given a new song, well, not a new song, but a new song for the concert to do, which we're looking at today. We need a little Christmas.
From Jerry Herman?
Yes, which is a...
Well, that's nice. I mean, Jonathan is someone who can fill the Royal Albert Hall because he's got a large personality and he's very experienced at playing that place.
I do want to end this discussion. It's been lovely to have you on again, Robert. We have seen lots of stuff. The highlight of 2013 for me, though, was a complete surprise. You said, I've got tickets for this. Do you want to go and see it? And I knew the songs. Well, I had the songs. I never really listened to it properly from the Scottsboro Boys, which is one of the last Kander and Ebb musicals. And you're a big expert on Kander and Ebb, aren't you? But we don't have a huge amount of time. But I just want to say thank you, Robert, for bringing me to this absolutely amazing treat at the Young Vic Theatre of the Scottsboro Boys. It touched me. It did that thing that Kander and Ebb do, that only Kander and Ebb could do, which is make a entertaining situation. Well, Sondheim can do it as well, but take a concept and make it absolutely shocking, entertaining, funny, emotional, moving, everything. And that's what this show, and I'm hearing this from a lot of people, that's what this show is.
Yes, I'm glad you liked it, and I'm glad in a way.
Well, I didn't like it.
Okay,
You can't like the show.
It's difficult because yes, you're quite right. I think it's you're actually getting a very serious, tragic drama played out as a minstrel show, and I think the irony is grotesque, and it's very hard to sit through. I can understand now, having seen it in London, why New York audiences, why it can't work on Broadway and didn't work on Broadway. It worked brilliantly off Broadway because it's actually accusing the audiences themselves and Americans, and in terms of their own history, of a kind of an inveterate racism. So it is.
Tell us what it's about, briefly, Robert.
It is uncomfortable. Well, it's about the famous trial of the Scottsboro boys, who was a group of about, I can't remember exactly how many, 9 were there. 9 young men, very young men, Negroes as they would have been called in those days, who were wrongly accused of raping 2 young women, girls really, on a train. And of course they weren't even anywhere near the young girls. And the story, it sort of got worse and worse because there were a number of retrials, a number of appeals, which were upheld. But then when there was a retrial, every single time, because these men were being tried in the Deep South, the jury was all white and extremely racist in every case. And they never got, well, it took years before some of them were released.
Well, it was only and this is the most shocking thing, at the end of the show, as you're leaving, there's a projection on the cycloarmor saying only in 2013 did the US government apologise or something like that, which
Absolutely.
is, that's the biggest twist of the whole evening, that America has just only now apologised for this stupid mistake.
It's a scandalous and shocking story, and a very good a warning to us at how persistent racism can be. But also, as you said, the thing about Kander and Ebb.
Well, only Kander and Ebb could do a tap dance number celebrating the electric chair.
Absolutely, and it's funny and grim at the same time.
The most moving song I think possibly I've ever heard is in this show, and it's called "Go Back Home," which is what the phrase is what they would say to the take the freight train and go back home. So they took that and they made it into a beautiful song sung by the main guy, saying that's all he wants to do is take the freight train. It's a very, very clever and deeply moving concept. And there's even I'm going to leave you listeners with a clip of John Kander himself playing and singing a bit of this song. But Robert, it's been lovely to talk to you.
Thank you, Nick. Nice to talk to you.
Scottsboro Boys is playing at the Young Vic until the 31st of December, I think, but do check. Please do go and see it and see everything we talked about, because it's always, it's been a great year for musical theatre in this country. I think better than last year.
Yes, I mean, with Merrily We Rode Along and the Scottsboro Boys both playing in the same year, I think we couldn't do better.
And Charlie and From Here to Eternity and everything else. It's been a very exciting year. Here's John Kander doing a bit of that lovely song. Robert, you and I off to the National now, so off we go. Thank you very much. This has been a production of Musical Talk, copyright 2013. Goodbye.
Oh, me, all my time goes slow. Where's it gone to? I don't know. But maybe times will turn, I pray so. Maybe someday I'll get lucky. Someone's gonna say, all right, son, take the train and go back home. Hop a freight and go back home.